start going right, they go wrong all over again. Joe Burrow off to one of the best starts a rookie quarterback has ever had passing the ball. He's done for the year. Left knee injury, essentially tweeted it out yesterday saying, I'll see you next year. Brings back shades of Carson Palmer, who had a knee injury that essentially ended his career or limited his career with great potential for the Bengals. And Carson is actually going to join us this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern to kind of take us inside that type of injury with this sort of organization. Keyshawn J. Will Zubin, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Dan Orlovsky to dig in on the NFL coming up in 15 minutes. Danny Orlovsky, Keys NFL Live partner. All right, so for everything that was going well for Joe Burrow that was stymied yesterday, nothing has gone well, as you know, this season for Carson Wentz. Yesterday, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, sacked 5 times in a loss to the Browns. Doug Peterson answering the question that everyone's thinking, is it time for a move?
You know, with the way the game was going and the elements, and we were just, really a score from putting ourselves back into this football game, I did not consider that. Okay, obviously considering would be moving out Wentz and moving in Jalen Hurts. Key, to give a little more context, he did say after the game when asked about it, because, you know, people want to know about it, so he was asked by the Philly media, a little nudgingly, I would say. He said, listen, it would send the quote-unquote wrong message to the team. That was his words. It would send the wrong message. What do you think?
It would send the wrong message because it's hard. It's not like in basketball or other sports, you could take a guy out and then put him back in and take him out, you can play that game. Mm-hmm. In football, at the quarterback spot, you can't play yo-yo with a guy, especially a guy that you've given $100+ million to who was supposed to be your leader, your franchise quarterback. If you pull him and you just paid him all his money and all of a sudden Jalen Hurts goes in there and balls out to a whole nother level, now you back yourself up in the corner now because you're not going to go back to Wentz because a guy has got you on the move. Now you got the backup making $30 million. I mean, it just doesn't – you always follow the money when it comes to the quarterbacks in the quarterback situation. You got to follow the money. It's just not going to happen. Until the money starts to dry up, like a Joe Flacco with Lamar Jackson, the money was gone. He had already spent all the money. So he was like a little bit left in the cap space. And they was like, okay, we going with Lamar. We had intended on doing this anyway for the future.
At what point do you decide to get a divorce, though? Because it feels like it's like you're in a relationship with somebody that is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. And Key, you've always talked to me about the one thing you want, like the one thing you just sat up here and raved about Taysom Hill was not turning the ball over, was being consistent. Being consistent. And my thing is that I understand that they're in contention, which is a whole other damn story about the NFC East. It's just abysmal. But the guy threw a pick six. It felt like, I think it was the first quarter the other day. It was just a horrible read. I mean, he's 14 interceptions and 14 touchdowns. At what point do you say, enough, I just can't take this anymore. I don't know what I'm going to get day in and day out, regardless of whether I paid him $100 million or not. It seems like it was the wrong move. Yeah. It was the wrong move to pay him the money.
It's too late, though. They already gave it to him.
I understand, but this doesn't mean that you can't.
You said about the divorce, right?
Yeah, get a divorce.
You can't. Who's going to take him? Who wants him?
Well, you got Jalen Hurts who's sitting there.
If you getting a divorce, who wants him?
I don't know. So let somebody else figure it out.
No, nobody else don't want him. Why would you want to send somebody else your trash? You think somebody? You think?
So you think I have a lot of reasons why I want to send somebody else my trash.
You think there's other teams in the National Football League are looking at the same film and television games that you watch, and they sitting there going, "We'd like to have that guy."
But at what point do you say, I can't do this anymore, Key? What point when you look at Jalen Hurts and say, hey, he's just as unpredictable as Carson Wentz, a guy I paid $100 million to?
After next year, you'll look at him and go, yeah, I can't dance with him anymore. After next season in 2021, that's what they'll do. After the 2021 season, they'll start that conversation if it has a bad year or leading into that year, they'll start their conversation and we could cut bait because the money will have dried up that they owe him.
So you're saying after next year?
After 2021, that conversation comes up, then it'll be easier for him to swallow.
Then I can't wait to watch the best reality show on TV, which is Doug Peterson at a presser after games when they lose, and he has to continue to sit up there and talk about why he's sticking with Carson Wentz, man.
It's all the money.
It just gets more and more embarrassing.
You never see quarterbacks that make a ton of money get benched. They just don't. It doesn't happen. It does not happen.
Donovan McNabb.
I don't remember Donovan McNabb having a whole bunch of money on his books when he got benched. You got to remember what I'm talking about now, Jay. I'm talking about real money that's owed to you, not funny money on the cap situation. I'm talking about real money. He's owed real money. They're just not going to do it right now.
But if you
matter how bad he's playing.
If you were an executive, though, you're gonna just ride it out. Even if
you gotta ride it out, nothing you can do.
But you sit here like, all right, I made a bad decision. But
what do you know about executives, Jay, that they don't like to admit?
I know, but
then they do wrong.
Mistakes.
Executives do not want to say, "Oh, I made a mistake." They don't want to do it.
But how much praise would he get actually if he had to come into Christ's conversation and said, I did make a mistake. I made a mistake. It wasn't the right look, and now we're going in this direction.
They're not going to do it, Jay. They're just not going to do it. They're not going to do it, right?
They should do it. Just because they don't do it doesn't mean they shouldn't do it.
No, they should. He's horrible. I mean,
so you agree with me?
Absolutely.
Okay,
but I'm not the person.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear, King.
I'm not the person that's making a decision and pulling the trigger on that. I'm not the one that have to sit down with Jeff O'Leary and say, "Hey, this is a bad deal." I would have never signed him to the deal. I would have waited. I have no idea why they felt the need to rush out there and get a deal done with Carson Wentz when they did. What was the point? But
and then with his
because he's a family guy and we like him.
The Family Guy comment again.
Even with his brittle nature, he's gotten injured quite a bit. Howie Roseman, the team's executive vice president, you mentioned the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, the executive vice president, essentially said, Jalen Hurts, part of the reason we drafted him is because we're not able to depend on Carson Wentz to finish seasons. By the way,
thank you, Zubin.
The Eagles still have a 44.3% chance to win the NFC East. They currently sit in first place. Now it's a long, figurative, and literal week for the Eagles. Key, take me inside the locker room. They're not going to play again until next Monday. They're going to be on ESPN. The Seattle Seahawks are coming to town. Okay, you're off this sort of game. You got a rejuvenated Seattle squad coming to town. Tell me what's going on inside the locker room there in South Philly, coming off of this thud and a huge game on the horizon.
Well, I don't know their schedule, but if I was to think, it's their bye, obviously, and so they're going to probably take some time off, get away from the building, get away from it, be able to do some things. But even, the COVID situation kind of messes up plans, I'm sure, about leaving and going and traveling and things like that. They're just going to get away from the building. The coaches will probably do some Zoom meetings